Weekend rotation set and going to go a little lefty-righty. Lefty, is that the way it's going to go?
Yeah, that's the way it's going to go. We're going to go with Barnes in game one. I think Barnes is a tremendous competitor. Nobody likes facing a left-hander typically, and Barnes is one of those guys that has a lot of pitchability. We know he's going to go out there and pound strikes and compete as hard as he can, and he's one of those guys that gives us a great chance to get a quality start in game one. So we're going to go with Charlie in game one. We're going to go with Clade in game two. And we could have went either way. We could have went with Clade in game one, Charlie game two. I don't think it would have been that big of a difference. But, we wanted to try to split the lineup a little bit and go lefty then righty. And then we're going to go with Jake Higginbotham on Sunday. Higgy's a very talented freshman. We feel like for him to be where we want him to be, we got to throw him in the fire and start him. And I think it really sets up our bullpen very well. Gives us multiple options, left-handed and right-handed out of the pen. And I think that could be a strength of ours early is our bullpen as these guys continue to develop and get more comfortable pitching out of the pen. These three guys starting really sets up our bullpen nicely.
Got to have somebody come in bottom of the ninth. Who's it going to be? Do you know that yet?
Bostic. Yeah, we're going to go with Bostic. Bostic will be our closer. So we'll go to him in the ninth inning. Again, you want power stuff at the end of the game, and, Bostic gives you a guy that's been up to 93, 94 miles an hour. He's left-handed. He's got a plus breaking ball. He's an experienced guy. So we feel very good about going with Bostic at the end.
When you look at the scrimmages over the last few weeks and you look at Charlie and Clay, have they been pretty even with the way they've pitched?
Yeah, they have. It hasn't been, again, we debated, a little bit about which way we wanted to go, and I think all of us felt pretty good either way. I didn't think there was necessarily one reason to go with Clade over Charlie or vice versa outside of, I just think when you set up, for the weekend, if you're facing a lefty, then a righty, then a lefty, as opposed to a righty, lefty, lefty, I think it can do some things to the lineup a little bit. It gives them a little bit of a different look from one game to the next and then back to the lefty by going lefty, righty, lefty. But we could have went either way. I thought they were 1A and 1B, so to speak, and we just decided to go with Barnes in game one, just again to potentially flip the lineup a little bit and give an opponent different looks each day.
You figured out left field, right field, first base?
Yeah, we're definitely going to go with Chris Williams at first base. We feel like Chris is a guy that gives us a pretty good defender at first. He's a middle-of-the-order type hitter. He's really hit the ball well in the preseason, so Chris will play first base. And I think the domino effect will depend on what we do with Roman. If we play Roman in left, it opens up an opportunity for us to DH a Robert Jolly. Robert obviously gives you quality at bats in the DH spot. We all know how good a hitter Roman is. If we DH Roman, then it opens up some opportunities for us to put some guys that are more defensive. So if we want to go a little more defense, we may put a Wharton in left or a Malik Gibson in left. You could put Mike Triller in left. They're all pretty good defenders. And DH Roman. Or we could go Roman. If we want to go a little more of an offensive lineup, we could play Reed in left and DH Jolly and be more offensive. So I think it's just really going to depend upon the matchup for us. If we want to be more defensive, say on a Friday night, we may go a little more defensive. And as the weekend progresses, if we feel like we need to score more runs, we may go a little more offensive and put Reed out there.
Seth Beer and right?
Yes. I think Beer has shown over the last two weekends that he has the potential and the ability to be a guy that can drive the baseball, that can hit at a high level, can really throw. So and that's where he's most comfortable. We didn't have enough time to really move him around and see if there was any sort of versatility there. I wanted him to be as comfortable as possible and not throw too much at him at once, so we've stuck him in right. And Seth's hit really well. He's had a couple home runs in the last 4 inter squads and really starting to swing the bat well.
Aside from the lefty-righty lefty, how much stock do you put in, well, this guy's the Friday starter, this guy's the Saturday? Is it important?
Well, here's the way I look at it, and this is exactly how I look at it. If you win on Friday night, you can win the series on Saturday if you got a really good guy going. If you lose on Friday night, you got to get right back into the series on Saturday with a guy that can win that game, so you go in Sunday with a chance to win the series. So I think the Saturday starter is extremely, extremely important in terms of how you decide to set up your rotation. If you look at teams that win a lot of games, they're really good on Saturday because, again, we're all facing the best guys on Friday night. Friday nights a lot of times are low-scoring games. One mistake and you can lose that game. You've got to have a guy on Saturday that if you happen to lose a game on Friday night can get you right back into the series on Saturday. If you win on Friday night, now you're facing a guy that can win you the series on Saturday. So I think the Saturday game is a swing game. We've always looked at it as a swing game. It's a very important game. So I think the value of the Saturday starter is very important. They're all important, but that Saturday game is a big, big deal because you win the first two, you're looking to sweep on Sunday. You lose the first one, you're looking to get right back into it. So it's it's very important that you make a good decision on Saturday.
Middle relief and setup guys, can you tell me who's maybe come out of the bullpen first?
I would say the first guy that and we even debated potentially starting him on Sunday. He's been so good for us is Alex Eubanks. Eubanks is a guy he's kind of a right-handed version of Barnes. He just pounds the strike zone with 3 pitches, great competitor. Doesn't have necessarily an overwhelming fastball, but a really good breaking ball, throws 2 breaking balls so he can get swings and misses, has sink on the fastball, makes you put it on the ground. Yubi's a guy that we're going to throw a lot out of the pen. That's why we wanted to keep him in the pen, to be able to use him twice in a weekend as opposed to just starting him on a Sunday. Schnell, has thrown extremely well lately. He was in the mix of potentially starting and could wind up being a guy that we use in long relief or pitch in the middle of the week once we get to that point. Another guy that's thrown very, very well is Garrett Lavorne. Garrett Lavorne has flashed some low 90s, some 91s and 92s with 3 pitches. I think Garrett's going to throw a lot of innings for us. Riley Gillum is a guy, we kind of look at Gilliam as our 8th inning guy and Bostic as our 9th inning guy. Gilliam has the best breaking ball on the staff. He can really spin a breaking ball. So he's a little guy. Think Daniel Gossett. He's kind of a Daniel Gossett type guy. He's a really twitched up athlete with an explosive fastball and a really, really it's a wipeout breaking ball. So we feel like that's what we want to do, kind of use Eubanks, Lavorne, Schnell, Pat Krall. Pat Krall is a very, very valuable piece to this bullpen. I could see us, depending on when our starter goes out, we may run a Eubanks out after a Barnes. We may run a Krall out after a Schmidt to give a lineup a much different look, going from the right-hander to the left-hander. But also with Krall and Eubanks, you can play matchup. Once you're done with the starter, you can look at their lineup, and if it's a very left-handed lineup coming up, say in the 6th inning, we may run Krall out there to be a little, to give them that left-hander. If it's a right-handed lineup, we may go Eubanks in that situation. I think those 2 guys will be the first out of the pen, depending on the lineup, and also depending on who they're following, to give the lineup a different look. But you're going to see, Lavorne and Schnell as well, and Gilliam and Bostic will be the guys that we want to try to get to. If we're pitching Gilliam and Bostic, then we're in good shape.
How close are you on a lineup?
I'm pretty close on the lineup. I think we feel good about who's going to be on the field. It's just a matter of what order we decide to hit them in. A lot of it's going to be dependent upon kind of what we do with Okie and Rollman. Who we choose to protect who, and how we do that. Whether we hit one in front of the other, but we feel pretty set infield wise, obviously catching wise. It's just a matter, again, of what we do in left field, depending on that DH spot. If we play Rollman, we'll DH. You could see us DH a Jolly. If we DH Jolly, then it could open up the opportunities for a Wharton, a Malik Gibson, maybe even a KJ Bryant here and there, who can really, really run and play defense in right or center. So we have a lot of options in the outfield. We're not as deep in the infield. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's just a matter if we play more of a defensive lineup or offensive. But for the most part, I feel pretty good, probably with 8 of the 9 spots, 7 of the 9 spots right now.
In the order, do you have a 1-2 you like?
This could change. I would say the one guy that I probably would go with if we were going to write it today, I'd probably go Pender in the leadoff spot. I think Pender gives you a guy that can run. He gives you quality at bats. You look at his numbers from last year. His hit by pitch and walk was slightly better, I believe, than his Ks. And I like a guy that's got at least an even walk hit batter ratio to his strikeouts or even higher. We want our leadoff guy to be a very high on-base percentage guy. We feel like Pender gives us a good option there. I want to try to get Eli White up to the plate as much as possible. So I could see him probably, in that 2 hole. But Eli could hit third, too, if we decided we wanted to hit a lefty in the 2 spot to open up the hole on the right side of the infield. But Eli's going to hit, probably 2 or 3 in that mix. I think Eli's hit 4 or 5 home runs in the preseason. I mean, he's swinging the bat really, really good. And he hits balls to all fields, and he can run. So, he's been very, very impressive offensively. And then in the middle, you're going to see Rollman, you're going to see Okie, and I would say Chris Williams has got to be in that mix. Chris Williams has been a guy that's really swung the bat well. Weston Wilson's hitting the ball well. I would say Weston, could potentially be in that 5-6, spot as well. So yeah, we think we know, kind of the moving parts as far as, how we want to build the lineup. Again, it's just going to depend on who we decide to protect who, whether it's Okie protecting Rollman or Rollman protecting Okie in the middle of that order.
Any injuries? Any hoping?
No, we're knock on wood. I don't see knock on wood. We're fairly healthy right now, which is a good thing. Our pitching staff's fairly healthy. Positionally, we're healthy. Nobody's questionable or out in terms of health for this weekend.
Do you have an idea of how good this team can be, or is it one of those things, ask me after Sunday?
You know what? I think it's going to be look, I feel the same way every year, to be honest with you. Every team is a different team. Unless you've got a lot of guys returning lineup-wise and pitching-wise, you have a better feel for how they're going to perform. As far as I go, I feel very confident about our team because, look, you gotta throw strikes, you need pitching depth, and you got to play good defense to keep you in any ball game. Well, I think we have the starting pitching to get us quality starts. I think we've got enough bullpen options that could come in and throw strikes and compete at a high level to where I feel good about our pitching staff. Now, they haven't faced anybody but our hitters. So when another team is in that other dugout, there's a lot of factors involved in that. You're facing somebody else for the first time. You're, when you get on the rubber and get the sign from Okie, there's 5,000 people behind you. So there's a lot of different factors involved in how these guys are going to perform. Can they compete and perform under pressure? That's the question that we have to answer as a team. It's how does this team play under pressure? And how do we play when somebody else is in the other dugout? In terms of inter-squads, our guys have performed very well. But, we got to see how these guys do once somebody else is in that dugout. But lineup-wise, anybody in the country would sign Chris Okie. If you said you could have Chris Okie as your catcher, anybody in the country would want him. Now, Chris Williams, he's a really, really good hitter. I think he's got a chance to be a special hitter. And if I had to catch him, we wouldn't miss much of a beat. I think he'll be here 1 year next year as our catcher, and then he'll be gone in the draft. Shortstop, Eli White. Eli White's got as much range as the most athletic shortstop I've probably ever had. And he can hit. So Weston Wilson started for 2 years, very comfortable at second base. Pender, very good center fielder, played a lot as a true freshman last year. I think, you look at it, you got Rollman. Is there a better hitter in the ACC than Rollman? Not that I know of. So, we've got some experience, and we got Seth Beer, by the way, who's one of the best freshmen in the country. So I feel good, but I'm always going to feel good, going into the first weekend. We haven't played anybody yet. But we got to perform under pressure. And it's my job to try to take as much of that pressure off of them, keep them loose. Make sure that if something does go wrong, we don't hit the panic button. Hey, just relax, stay focused, and keep competing. And but I feel very good about it. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to seeing how some of these guys that haven't pitched yet in this program, how they perform once they get out there.
Are those the biggest kind of unknowns heading into this weekend? Just competition?
The biggest unknown for me is how will our pitching staff compete under pressure when they haven't been in that pressure of a situation yet. I feel good about Barnes. Barnes has pitched a little bit. Clayt's pitched an awful lot. I feel good about Clayt when he toes the rubber. He's been there, done that. Higginbotham's never pitched here. So it's going to be a great thing for me to see. How does he perform under pressure for the first time? So that's the big thing. How does Bostic do as a closer? He's done pretty dang good against our hitters. Riley Gillum, how does he do in pressure situations? They haven't done it in those roles yet. We've got guys that are going to pitch in roles they haven't pitched in before. So it's my job to keep them loose and relaxed and keep running them out there so that they can get comfortable and not put a tremendous amount of pressure that, hey, if you don't pitch well, you're probably not going to pitch for 2 weeks. We got to keep running these guys out there and get them comfortable, and hopefully after week 1, we know more going into week 2. And after week 2, we know more going into week 3, so on and so on.
Is there also a little more anxiety because there's not a lot of scouting reports first week of the season?
You know what? I honestly, I've never been a guy that spends a whole lot of time when it comes to, scouting reports. I look at the pitchers. I want to know, what their walk to strikeout ratios, what their arm slot is, what kind of stuff they have, right-handed, left-handed, where are they strong, where are they weak. I just look more at that. You want to pick out the guys in the lineup that are dangerous and know which guys you want to be careful with. But for the most part, I just kind of worry about what we do in regards to who we're playing. If we throw strikes, play good defensively, execute offensively, then we can play with anybody. So, scouting reports, we do look at them. They are important, but, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. That's Mike Tyson said that. So I look at it that way. You can have the best game plan in the world against somebody until you go out there and somebody doesn't perform. It's all about execution. You got to feel confident, and your players have to feel confident that they can go out there and execute. And if we execute, then I feel really good about us playing against anybody.
Thanks, guys.